Over the last year, throughout neighborhoods in Chicago, chalk art has been showing up on sidewalks. The artist is Rebecca LaFlure. But there was a time where she wasn't sure she'd ever write again. So what happened and how did life journey for her? And how did she get to where she is today? She joins us today to talk about that journey, where she is now, and what the future might hold. That's all coming up right here, right now. I'm Sam Chen, and this is Face the Issues. Good evening and welcome to Face the Issues. I'm Sam Chen. For the last year, chalk art has been showing up on sidewalks and communities around the Chicago, Illinois area, and the artist is Rebecca LaFlure. But there was a time where Rebecca wasn't sure if she'd be able to write again, let alone draw. So what happened and where did that life journey take her? She joins us tonight to talk about that journey and what she's doing now. Rebecca, welcome to Face the Issues.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. And for our viewers who don't know, Rebecca and I were college classmates at Baylor University. And so this is a homecoming of sorts. I haven't seen her in well over a decade. And so Rebecca, it is so good to see you. And how are you and your family doing?
Oh, we're doing great. Just doing the best we can, still working from home and everything. We're doing well.
Good to hear. Rebecca, let me ask you, we'll get to your chalk art, but chalk art, this was not a job for you. You were in journalism. You don't work in that field now. So tell us a little bit about you, what you do for your day job, a little about your family. Help our viewers get to know you a little bit better.
Sure. So I'm from Texas originally, and I moved to Chicago almost 10 years ago, which is pretty crazy to think about. But I moved to go to graduate school, and I ended up staying because I ended up meeting my husband, and so I stayed here. And so I live here in Chicago with my husband, Jordan, who works for The Onion, which I like to brag about whenever I can. And then I have a 3-year-old daughter named Josie. And yeah, I worked for a number of years as a news reporter, but currently I work at a consulting firm in their investigations practice. So I do all kinds of investigations for different clients. Has nothing to do with chalk art.
That's really neat. Let's talk about your journey to this point. I said in the intro, there was a time where you weren't sure you'd write again. And now here you are performing these drawings. And we'll get to that part, but walk us through what happened. You were in an accident. Walk us through what happened.
So whenever I was 21 and still going to school at Baylor, I ended up going to Houston to visit some of my old childhood friends. And I was in the front seat passenger in a car that got into a really bad accident. So the driver actually was swerving, trying to miss a semi truck, and she ended up running into a concrete barrier on the side of the freeway. And then we flipped 6 lanes all the way over to the other side of the freeway. Thankfully, none of the other passengers were seriously injured, but my front window was open and my hand flew out. And so the fingers on my right hand were amputated during the accident. I don't really remember a lot about the accident. I just remember that I was being strapped up by paramedics to be airlifted to the hospital, and one of the paramedics kept on asking me different things about myself, and she asked what I did for a living, and I said, I'm studying to be a journalist. And she said, well, now you have something to write about. And that's something that always really stuck with me particularly because I did end up writing about it whenever I became a journalist. But that was one of the only memories I have from that night. And I just remember coming to in the hospital, and that's where they informed me that I had lost the fingers on my right hand and they were going to try to reattach them. And then whenever I came to, I had like this big cast on my right hand, and they told me they were able to reattach my thumb, but none of the other fingers. and then the thumb ended up dying, and so they had to like remove that part and a whole other surgery. Um, and yeah, after that, I started my journey of just trying to adapt to life without the fingers on my right hand, which was significant since I was right-handed.
Wow. And you were still in college at the time. Can you describe that moment of like when that realization hit you? What was that like?
Well, I can't really remember like there being any kind of like one realization. I think it was just kind of like a gradual learning to accept it, I guess. So, I think that, there was the physical part of just like getting back to my health and learning how to do things differently. And then there was also the mental part of just learning to accept it. I think there was a period where I felt really embarrassed about my hand and like worried what people would think of me and that they would think I looked weird or something. And it makes me really sad to think about that now because I would never judge anyone who had a hand difference. And, I don't think that I'm weird or anything. My hand's weird. And so, um, but that is what I thought. And so, yeah, there was definitely like a whole process of just like coming to terms with it and being comfortable with it.
What was it like then coming back? I mean, you're recovering from an accident. So aside from your hand, I mean, you were in this horrific accident. What was it like trying to get back to school? You said you were right-handed, so I'm imagining you had to learn how to write with your left hand.
Um, well, yeah, that was like a big question, is because I didn't know if I would be able to write again. I mean, writing with your opposite hand is very difficult. So I tried various things, but ultimately, I did find a way to be able to hand write with my right hand. And so I still continue to write with my right hand, and I draw with my right hand as well. I just do it a little bit differently. So yeah, that was a big breakthrough for me.
Wow. So you still write and draw with your right hand.
Yes, yeah. So I'm just see if I have a little. Yeah, so I just hold it a little differently.
Wow. That is
Yeah,
remarkable. Wow.
yeah.
What was the biggest adjustment for you? Like when you came out of the hospital, you got back to Baylor, what to you was the biggest challenge?
I think yeah, just learning to accept it and be comfortable with myself. I think the big turning point was actually after Baylor. There was a period of time where I had a very realistic hand prosthetic. It's actually really amazing how realistic they can make prosthetics look these days. But I had a hand prosthetic that I wore everywhere I went out in public. So there was actually a lot of people I think who like just acquaintances who didn't even really know what happened because they didn't notice I was wearing a hand prosthetic and I didn't really talk about it. Um, but then whenever I was a reporter, my first reporting job was in Killeen, Texas, outside of Fort Hood, Texas, and there just happened to be a um, a, a camp there for teenagers with hand differences, which sounds really crazy because that's like a very specific thing, but it just happened to be one of the only hand camps in the nation. Was there in Killeen, Texas, where I was a reporter, and one of my sources told me about it, and so I thought like, I should like try and cover that, and so I got to cover it as a reporter, and I also, told my own story as well in the piece. And I think seeing those other teenagers and just seeing how confident they were and they didn't wear prosthetics and they were able to do so much, it really made me realize like what am I ashamed of? Like these people are amazing. And so after that is really when I stopped wearing my prosthetic all the time. And now I never wear it because I can just do more without it. And there was even a time at that camp where, before my accident, I used to play guitar and I worried that I would never be able to play guitar again. And one of the teenagers played guitar and he had a hand similar to mine. And he showed me like a specific thumb pick he used to help him play guitar. And then I tried it and it worked for me too. And so I learned how to play guitar again through that hand camp. So it was a very cool experience.
That's really neat. When you look back on that time, I mean, you said this was your junior year in college, I believe you said. So we're talking a good 15 years ago. Um, what would you have told yourself then that you know now?
I would have told myself just to, I think just to be confident in who you are and not feel, um, ashamed of, I guess, this perceived flaw I had, because, really it's something that now I'm proud of, and it's like a visual reminder of what I've overcome. So, yeah, I would just tell myself not to doubt myself and embrace it.
Yeah, a great message. Rebecca, thank you for kind of journeying with us through that. We're going to cut to break, but when we come back, I want to talk about your art drawings and where these art drawings came from, these chalk drawings, and kind of where they came from and what might be next for you. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Face the Issues. Rebecca, thank you again for being with us. And thank you so much for just sharing your journey from everything that happened to where you are now. I want to talk now about this art that has been popping up on sidewalks throughout Chicago. Obviously, the incredible part of the story is that you're doing this with your right hand, and you don't have fingers on your hand, and you're doing this. And the art is so realistic. And I just want to ask you to start with about how you got into this. Have you always? I mean, you said earlier you went to J school, both undergrad and graduate school. You worked as a journalist. You now work as an investigator. Have you always had an inclination toward art?
I did as a kid, yes. And my mom's whole side of the family is very artistic. My mom's a great artist. My cousin and uncle and grandfather are all great artists. But um, I, I enjoyed it as a kid. I would do lots of like caricatures and comic strips, and I enjoyed, creating my own characters and drawing them. But it's not something that I was ever into at all as an adult, up until about a year ago, or a little more than a year ago at this point. But um, I got into it because of the chalk art, and basically it was COVID, and I was working from home, and a lot of places were shut down. My daughter's daycare was closed, and we just were looking for something to get us out of the house. And so we used to go and chalk together. And that's when I realized, like, oh, I really like this. And I kind of have a knack for it. And I think the thing that kept me going was a lot of my neighbors started commenting on it, and they like enjoyed coming by, and they would bring their kids by, and they were always looking forward to seeing what I would chalk next. And so then it just kind of turned into a thing, and I created an Instagram account, Chalk of the Town 312. And now I put that under all my drawings. And so people will know it's me, and then they can follow along. And so, yeah, I created that in October 2020. And so I've been doing it ever since.
And again, the chalk drawings are stunning. You've done these characters of cartoon characters, of TV characters, and you would think this was something that the companies themselves commissioned, that they're just so realistic. Rebecca, how do you decide what you're going to chalk, and where do you decide to chalk?
So it's a mix of things. I get a lot of requests, and so I'll try to work those in. And then the other times it's just things that pop into my head, and I decide I want to draw it. Um, I like putting like a spin on well-known characters, putting my own little spin on it. Or I like having themes. Like I had a catty corner, which was like literally the corner of the street, and it was just all different cat characters, and I would gradually add to it throughout the week, and people would like to come by and see, what new cat I was going to add. Um, so yeah, it varies. It's just things that pop into my head. I have like a whole little file on my phone where I just like jot down ideas anytime they come to me. So yeah.
That's so neat. And what I mean, it's an interesting canvas, right? It's the sidewalk, or it's a driveway, or are there? I mean, is it harder to chalk on certain sidewalks or certain asphalts? Is there a specific kind of ground that makes it easier to chalk?
Yeah, so I'm always on the lookout for like smooth pavement that I know is going to be good for a good chalk drawing. And so whenever I'm walking around, I'll, be keeping my eye out for it and make note like, oh, that would be a good place for a chalk drawing. Um, yeah, but I chalk a lot around where I live, but then I also venture out to like I've done it at the park and the library, a few bus stops, just wherever the mood strikes me, I guess.
And how long does this take? I mean, how long does each chalk drawing take you?
It's a wide range. Like sometimes it'll be quick, like 30 minutes,
Oh
and then
wow.
other times, it can take like 4 hours. It just really depends on how big and intricate it is. And then a lot of times, like like with the caddy corner, for example, like it's hard to know how long that took me just because it was something I was kind of like
Mhm.
gradually adding things to throughout a week. So, yeah, it varies.
And Rebecca, I mean, I have to ask this. Like, you've done so many characters. You said you often like putting your own twist on the character, or and you get commissions. The Is there a favorite chalk drawing that you have, or is there one that was your favorite to do?
Um, that's tough. Like there were a lot I like to do. One of my favorites I think was I did Carl Fredricksen from Up,
Mhm.
where I really liked, him like holding all the balloons. That was really fun for me to draw. And Pixar ended up sharing that one and a couple others actually on their Instagram. And so I was really excited about that.
Well, oh, that's neat. I mean, to get hopefully Pixar's also paying you a commission.
Oh, yeah.
Let me ask you this, Rebecca. I mean, this you said this started during COVID. It was really something that you and your daughter were doing in a time where we're all at home. The world's not just kind of coming to a halt. I mean, there's so much uncertainty in the world at the time. And now this thing has really taken off, and you've gotten the attention of your neighborhoods. You've gotten the attention of Chicago. There are people I know in Pennsylvania and DC that know of Chalk of the Town, that have followed your Instagram and are aware of what's going on. What do you hope to do with this? Do you hope? I mean, obviously, we all hope you continue it. But what's the hope? Is there a dream with this in any way?
Not really. I'm just kind of like seeing where it takes me because already I've gotten like so many more opportunities and gotten so much more out of this than I ever would have imagined whenever I first started it. And so I'm just kind of along for the ride at this point. I do know that I am going to definitely continue Chalk of the Town and chalking all around, um, my neighborhood in Chicago. And I have been getting a lot of commissions, and so I'll continue with that. Been doing like various events and school events and birthdays and all kinds of things. So I definitely can't imagine my life without it at this point.
That's really neat. Any chance we can pay you to chalk, like, or fly you to Philadelphia and chalk up the city of Philadelphia?
Oh, sure. Would be happy to.
That would be great. Let me ask you this. What I mean, this has been again. You say you started this during COVID. That was such a crazy time for all of us. And I imagine the chalk art really was. To your point, you said you began doing this with your daughter. This was really just something for the two of you. And as this has grown, what has that meant to you to see your neighbors kind of coming on it, and then your local press has covered this. What has that meant to you to see this grow in the way that it has, and to see, in many ways, the lives that it's touched, and it's given people something to look forward to during the last 2 years that there has not been a lot to look forward to. This has really almost been a glimmer of hope, I think, for many people in your communities. What does that mean to you?
I mean, it means a lot. I feel so blessed to have found this thing that I really enjoy doing, that gives me joy. but then that also seems to bring others joy too. I think that's not something that you find often.
Mhm.
And it's cool to have just, stumbled upon this thing without even, really looking for it. It just happened. And so it's been a really amazing experience.
Well, we certainly hope you continue to do that. Rebecca, another question. As again, this has become, I mean, I know you have your day job, but as you're getting some commissions on so forth on this, any chance that we could see a Chalk of the Town book in the near future that, perhaps a signed copy that, might be on bookshelves in the near future?
I don't know about the near future. Maybe someday. People have suggested things like that. So who knows?
Well, we certainly would look forward to seeing that. And if that time comes, we certainly love to have you back on the show to talk about that.
Oh, thanks.
But Rebecca, thank you for sharing that with us, but also thank you for what you do. And as I said, I think something as perhaps as that begins as something with your family really can bring hope in the time that is just uncertain for so many people. And so appreciate you sharing your story and appreciate you sharing your art with us. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Face the Issues. My guest today, again, Rebecca LaFlure, the chalk artist of Chalk of the Town 312, based in Chicago. Rebecca, thank you again for being with us today. Thank you for sharing your journey, a journey from the challenges of losing your fingers on your dominant hand through all the success you've had in your career, and now this newfound artistry with Chalk of the Town. Rebecca, I want to close out by asking you to reflect on your journey, whether it's the accident, whether it's your job, whether it's where you are now, and reflect on that. Looking back on that, there are so many others that have gone through life-altering experiences. You talked yourself about visiting that hand camp in Killeen, Texas, and the inspiration that they were to you. And there are so many others who are along that journey, whether it's the same kind of accident or something else. What have you learned over the years what advice can you give them about the challenges they're going to face and what the future might hold?
I guess I would just say you can't control a lot of obstacles that come up in your life, but you can control how you respond to them. And I've really benefited a lot from just embracing my past hardships and recognizing that they've shaped who I am and trying to turn those bad experiences into something positive. I don't like to tell people what to do because every situation is different, but that's just something that's really worked for me.
Yeah. And looking ahead, I mean, you have a daughter who's, I think, still a toddler, right?
Yeah, she's 3.
3. Okay. The best ages. Looking at you, I mean, you have a beautiful family. You have a very successful career, and obviously, Chalk of the Town taking off. What does the future hold for Rebecca? What future plans are there, and where else might we see some of your artwork?
Right now, I've been in a spot in my life where I'm very happy, and I don't have any like specific plans necessarily with Chalk of the Town, but except just to continue it, and when opportunities present themselves, to be thankful and go for them. I'm thankful for opportunities like this, like talking to you, that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to more chalk art, to meeting more cool people, and hopefully spreading some more joy around Chicago.
Yeah. Well, Chicago and beyond, like I said, certainly here where we are in Pennsylvania, and I know in neighborhoods throughout the country, there's been a lot of people inspired by the work that you do. Rebecca, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for what you do. I would add, just having known you since the time that we were in college, you've always been good at what you do. You've always been committed to what you do. And it is so inspiring to hear your story and to see what you're doing now and the joy that you're bringing to so many people's lives. And so just thank you for that. Thank you for who you are.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Well, that is our show for tonight. I want to thank Rebecca LaFlure again for joining us, for sharing her story, and it's such a powerful reminder that we are going to face hardships in our life, whether they're like Rebecca's or otherwise. We're going to face these challenges, and there's an inner strength that allows us to overcome them and can lead to fulfilling lives, fulfilling careers, and who knows what else, just like Chalk of the Town. So we invite you to visit her Instagram, Chalk of the Town 312, and to follow her along in her journey as she continues to chalk throughout Chicago. Again, I want to thank you for joining us tonight, for tuning in, and we hope to see you right back here again next week. Until then, my name is Sam Chen. On behalf of all of us here at Face the Issues, thank you and good night.